Nostalgia Street invites you on a retro ride that's more than just a trip down memory lane.
Uncover life lessons and personal growth stories that stem from our collective past.
So you can live a richer, more connected life today.
Whether you're a 90s kid, an 80s teen, or simply young at heart, you'll find something to relate to in each episode.
Now, here are your hosts, Vince and Jeff. All right, welcome back to another episode of Nostalgia Street, where we tell the stories that shape us. Hey,
proud of you. 2 gold stars.
And today our guest's name is Laura. That's the secret sauce. We'll find out a little bit more about Laura. We're here at our studios, downtown Sioux Falls at Forefront Studios, that is. We're the primary sponsor. Isn't that fun how that works out? So Vince, we're going to throw it to you where he's going to start the show off with the fun question of the day.
First off, if you're listening to this podcast, get off Spotify, get off Apple, get on YouTube and watch this instead, because you get to see all the fun stuff that happens on our show, including this next question. All right, Laura, I have found out here from your questionnaire that you love horses and you're a child of the 90s, so we're going to give you this question. You accomplished your life dream. You now are entering the Kentucky Derby as an owner. You get to pick a horse, but the horse has to be named after a 90s musician. And then who is your jockey going to be? So what's your horse's name and who's the jockey?
That's a lot of questions.
That is a lot of questions and a lot of creativity, which is not really where my brain goes, but that's okay. So if I'm going to pick from the 90s, I'm going to go with, we're going to name the horse Garth.
Garth is the horse.
Okay, so Garth is the horse. And I don't know, the jockey is 4 feet tall and, is the best in the country. So.
Well, no, the jockey's got to be a person from that era,
Oh my gosh.
too.
Okay. Oh, good grief.
DMX?
She know jockey name?
Yeah, maybe DMX.
DMX
can be
is
the jockey. There you go.
Oh God, you scare the horse.
Yeah,
with
that's what
that.
I'm going to say.
With that
Should
voice?
maybe be the other way around.
Yeah, Garth is the jockey.
Garth is riding DMX?
Yeah, oh, I love that. I love that.
all
There
right.
it is.
All right. I see where you're going with that. All right. I was confused on who the jockey was, but all right. Jeez. All right. Well, our guest today is Laura Arnett, right?
That's right.
I want to make sure I got that right.
Yep, you got it right.
Because sometimes it's Lori or whatever like that. Okay. And so Laura is, and I got to make sure I get this right too. She's the business development director for Flynn Wright here in Sioux Falls, based in Des Moines, right?
Well, we have 2 offices now. So one's in Des Moines and one is in Sioux Falls.
All right. And is the headquarters, shall we say?
Sure. We started in Des Moines. Yep.
Yeah,
so we were in Des Moines for 38 of the last 40 years.
Jeez.
So.
Been around for a while.
Yes. So we are in year 40 as an agency, which is very exciting for us. And it's great to have the office in Sioux Falls now.
Sweet, sweet. So we're going to get more into Laura's story with Flynn Wright. But first, as we always do here, we have to start talking about the really important questions. So, Laura, when you were a child and you wore pajamas, were they footies or no footies?
I'm going to say no footies, probably.
We've never asked that question before, have we?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about here? I always have to ask Vince, because there's oftentimes people are here from the 80s, and so we're talking about things like Lawrence Welk and things, and he doesn't know who that is.
Sure.
So I have to look. Do you know what footies are, Vince?
Like,
Oh,
This
no,
means
that face
no.
says
That
no.
means no.
are we talking like pajamas with like a connected, like,
Yes.
that seems so uncomfortable.
Well,
like warm.
They were great for the first 10 minutes,
Yeah,
and then
and
your
then
feet got so sweaty.
So sweaty
Yeah.
and
Like,
nothing you could do.
I don't want to like cut them off.
Yeah.
They're great for little kids because their feet, their extremities get cold, and some of them even have the little like mittens you can fold over, to keep them really warm. But like when you're a kid or older, it's unbearable. So no footies for me.
Don't do that to your kids.
So
That's
give
what
us a
blankets are
snapshot
for.
of your childhood. Like, where'd you grow up and what was that kind of like?
I grew up, I always say around Sioux Falls, which is
Okay.
true. So I was born in Worthington, Minnesota,
Okay.
but I only lived there until I was, I think, 2, maybe closer to 3. And then we lived in Brandon, South Dakota, until I was about, I would have been about 12, I suppose. And I was homeschooled up until middle school. So that's a, kind of an interesting fact about me.
Yeah.
I didn't know very many homeschooled kids, and I still don't to this day, but
They kicked you out of
yeah,
school.
they were like, no more school for you. You got to go home. And then we moved up by Colton and lived up there for a few years. But we were at that point going to a private middle school in Sioux Falls. And so my mom was driving us back and forth every day. And it was a solid 40 minutes each way.
Jeez.
And in the wintertime and all of that, I think she just got tired of going that far.
Yeah.
So we found a different acreage and moved by T, which was so different then than it is today. I mean, we lived outside of T, and, there was no high school. There was no nothing basically north and west of the auto auction, which used to be kind of the location, that you would use to direct people where to go. So, so lived around Sioux Falls, and then went to Lenox for high school, and then went to Vermilion for college and grad school.
So what did your parents do for a living?
So my dad is a veterinarian actually by education, but only practiced actually for a few years because he didn't like, I don't think, being out in the middle of the night, because that's when animals always had problems. It's never during the day. It's like being a doctor, right?
Sure.
And so he only practiced in a veterinary practice for a few years, but then got into the vaccine side of veterinary medicine, and owned and started a vaccine company. Then it subsequently sold it, and then really went on to the consulting side of vet medicine. And that basically is what he did my entire childhood, and still what he does to this day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And mom?
So my mom was a homemaker.
Gotcha.
So she stayed home. I'm one of 5 kids. And so that's a lot going on all the time. And there's 4 of us that are very close in age, and we were a handful, to say the least. I was the only girl until I was 8, and then my sister was born. So it was a lot of fun. There's always something going on.
2 girls, 3 boys?
Yep.
That's what it was?
Yep.
Gotcha. Now I remember, so we always throw this out there for people who haven't seen our show. One of the things we like to do to help our guests along is we have strange things that we talk about. So we like to...
When you preface it like that, it does not sound good.
I know, right?
It does not sound good.
But we like to let people relive their past a little bit. So we give them a few prep questions. Plus, it lets us know a little bit. But I remember that you and your siblings, you had a fairly dramatic event.
We did.
With placemats?
Yes. And that's one of those things too, because, one of the prep questions was something that you found out other people did, you didn't know, that was one thing too. Like people storing things in their ovens and not using them. Like I kind of thought that was just a one trick pony that was only in my family. But as it turns out, a lot of people's families did that and still do that because they don't use them for whatever reason. So we had a babysitter, and we only ever had each babysitter once. And this story is, a tribute to that. This is why. Because we were a lot. We were all really close in age. The most between any of us was 1.5 years. And so,
Wow.
That's a lot of kids, especially when we were like that, 6 to 10. That's just a lot. So anyway, my parents wanted to go out for dinner or something. She comes over, and she's maybe 15. She can't even drive herself. Oof. So she comes over, and first time babysitter, and my mom is going through the list of, here's where the phone numbers are, and, here's where we will be, and don't use the oven. You do not need to use the oven, because we had this convection oven on the countertop, which now is pretty common, but back then I don't know that a lot of people had that.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. She forgot whatever, and he turns the oven on, and there were these plastic placemats that were all unique to each of us. Of course, mine had a black horse on it. A couple of my brothers were sports or whatever. Of course, they immediately melt and start a fire in the oven. And I think there was other stuff in there too.
Smell.
Yeah.
Oh, and the plastic smell, and it was horrible. And yeah, we're all running around, sweaty because we're kids. And I think it must have been the fall, because it wasn't warm out, but it wasn't winter either. So none of us are wearing shirts. We're all just wearing shorts. And I'm probably 6 or 7. And of course, she gets us all outside. Everybody was fine, but it was I remember it vividly, which is weird because I just don't remember much else. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was, it's one of those things that I just will never forget. And it's, trying to explain it to my son now, because he's 8, to try to explain, well, we had stuff in the oven, and she didn't know, his brain is just I don't understand how that's even possible.
Oh, it's very possible.
So,
did anybody stop, drop, and roll?
No, we were all just, it was just so much chaos. And I just remember she was, of course, she's freaking out and screaming, and she's responsible for these 4 kids, and who even knows where they are in the house. So again, we all got out fine. The house was fine. The fire department showed up really quickly, but it was a wild time, and hopefully she had some counseling or something after that.
She's
but
probably
she,
on a podcast
she never
right
came
now
back.
talking about.
Do you still use your oven, or are you traumatized by using the oven?
No, I just will never put anything in it, ever. It is empty all the time. So I'll use it. I have no problem with it, but I'm the idea of storing things is you just use a cupboard or a bin. I don't, you know.
Does your mom do that?
My mom didn't believe in dishwashers.
Oh, that's
Like
right.
dishwashers were like a place to put dishes, but you don't actually run the dishwasher.
Wild.
So I didn't use a dishwasher until I was in college. Like, wow,
So
this
it's just a
washes
cabinet?
dishes.
You're like, this actually like does something
We've
as
been
a
lied to
function?
this whole life.
Mom, what's going on?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So I heard this. I mean, it's a joke, but I think it's true too. I saw this little girl sees her mom about to bake a ham for Easter, and her mom cuts off the ends of the ham, and the little girl says, "Mom, why are you doing that?" And she's like, "Because that's what my mom always did." And so then they're like, well, let's call grandma. So we call grandma. Grandma, how come you always cut the ends off the ham? And she goes, I don't know. That's what my mom always did. And then they're like, well, let's call great grandma. So they call great grandma. How come you cut the ends of the ham off before you put it in the oven? And she said, because if I didn't, it would fit in the pan.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go. Those odd traditions that parents pass down to their kids, and then they don't know why. And
Exactly.
that's why.
I thought you were going to say we couldn't call great grandma, so we got the Ouija board.
Oh my God.
Called her from the
What kind of a
beyond.
sick person are you?
You say we talk about strange things on the show. You preface it like that.
So who was the sibling that you were the closest to?
Oh, probably my two younger brothers. The one immediately below me, he and I are very similar personality wise. My older brother, he's a very classic oldest child and oldest boy. So, you know, sometimes had a complex about like being in charge, and, you know, he's the oldest and, you know, all of that. But, and my younger brother, that's right underneath me, Mark, he and I were very into a lot of the same things. Like we both loved horses. We took riding lessons together, did a lot of the same things. And we were obviously close in age too. So probably him. And then of course, once my sister was born, we didn't really get super close until I was probably in college, because I was kind of a brat to her because, you know, I was in high school and she's 7 and 8 and wants to just hang out with me all the time. And of course I thought I was too cool to hang out with her at that point. But today, certainly my sister and I are the closest.
Oh, that's cool.
Were you competitive? The siblings?
No, because I had no athletic ability whatsoever. And all of my siblings, including my sister, they are all super athletic.
Really?
And so I just like kind of let them just take it
Go
and
do
do
your
it.
thing.
Yeah.
But what about like games or anything you guys interact with? Were you competitive amongst each other?
Oh, yeah. You know, when we would play Nintendo or anything, you know, outside, I mean, it was just a knockdown, drag out, especially with my brothers. And yeah, there were just so many fights that I can remember. And it was over the dumbest things, you know, like who got to use a set of rollerblades next, or who got to, you know, what the batting order was going to be in our backyard when we were playing baseball. Like, I mean, everything was just like a fight of who got to go first and last and whatever. So
what happened when everybody got to be dating age? Did you guys fight over the phone also, or?
well, by then we were mostly, well, some of us had cell phones by then probably.
Okay.
But there was a time when, so the internet was a part of that, right? So we had dial-up internet for a while. So that would take a phone line. And my parents, I think we must have had 2 lines in our house, because I remember there was always one dedicated for the internet for a while there. And then we would still have a phone line. But every now and then somebody would want to like use both phones, and we couldn't because somebody was on the internet, and you pick up the phone and it was like that horrible sound. And so
I totally forgot about that you had to have a separate line just for the internet.
Yep.
You have it lucky today's kids. You have it so
Yeah,
lucky.
you totally do.
they don't even know.
Well, it's funny. Like we've had so many guests on, like me in the '80s, that I kind of forget that cell phones were a thing. Everybody had dial-up when I was a kid, so it was even worse. And then those phones, we had the rotary phones, so that tick 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 tick, they would take forever to start. Then we got the push button. We never had a push button phone when I was a kid growing up, till we got older. Always had that rotary thing.
Yeah.
Just that noise.
So my mom's side of the family, they farm, and a lot of them still do, but they had an old farm phone, and which was at my aunt and uncle's house. But like every now and then, it was still one of those where if like you picked it up, it might connect to the neighbor's phone. So
Oh,
you'd pick
sure.
it up, you know, because it was something with the way the phone lines were out in the country. You'd pick it up and you could hear their conversation that they're having with somebody else, and you're like, what? So that was even just another level of things you kind of forget. And again, today's kids will never, like my son, again, add that to the list of things. He just does not understand that you didn't have immediate access to the internet all the time.
Yeah.
Or even like today's kids will never have to call someone's home and have to talk to the parent to talk
Oh
to.
my gosh, the anxiety.
Yes.
Or like, especially if you were dating somebody, right? And you had to call and you were trying to get to that person and their mom or dad or whoever answered, and you had to, the second they pass the phone off, they're over in the corner talking about what.
Or they're on the other line.
Oh, they're on the other line listening, and you have to listen for the click, or the breathing, if
Yeah.
or your own siblings doing that, picking up the other phone to listen to your conversations. Yeah.
Mom, are you on the phone? No. You are too. Hang up. I'm not. You are too. And then you're click. Wait, I heard you're back on, aren't you? I heard you.
I heard it. I heard it pick up.
Did you ever talk code?
Not really. I just, because there were so many people in my house, I just tended to just not talk on the phone a lot. Just because you just could never be sure who was listening to what. And especially once my sister was much younger, it was just like, you never knew. She was always kind of creeping around, trying to be involved, and could never quite trust that somebody wasn't listening on the other line.
So did you have any hijinks when other people are dating and whatnot, like just making things challenging or uncomfortable for them?
I certainly wasn't the best, like, two girlfriends that my brothers would date. There's memes or things now where it'll say, like, so-and-so shouldn't be scared to meet my parents. They should be scared to meet my older sister. And, like, that was kind of me. Like, one of my brother's wives still to this day is quite intimidated by me, I guess.
Whoa.
Which I'm like to think I've calmed down a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe I need to do some more soul searching on that front. But I would certainly like be standoffish to them, and certainly not. I wouldn't be mean, but I certainly wouldn't be very welcoming, and would just kind of let them know that I'm watching, I'm paying attention. Like,
I'm watching you.
yeah, like you're not
Always
gonna get anything by me, so don't even try.
That's pretty good.
So your son's future girlfriends better watch out, is what you're saying right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, it's going to be a hard row to toe for them, unfortunately. Sorry, future girlfriends. It is what it is.
I hope years from now, in the Internet Archives, he finds this.
Yeah, wouldn't it be fun?
And he's like, oh my God, this makes so much sense.
Shelly, look, my mom, she's always been this way. It's not you.
Yeah, it's not you. It's just her. And I'll be like, it is just me. Like, it is what it is.
I'm the problem.
I'm the problem.
We'll be right back.
When you get into those junior high school years, what did you see little Laura becoming?
I don't know. I mean, that's a really hard question to answer, because even now, so I'm part of the Leadership Sioux Falls group this year, and that was one of our first sessions as we went out to Southeast and had a day there and had a lot of information about the school system in Sioux Falls and just various topics around education. And one of the exercises we did is everybody stood up and they had you sit down with it, like they counted backwards. So within the last 5 years, if you figured out that what you're doing is what you wanted to do, you sit down, and then they keep going back. There were people that were standing until they got back to like elementary age. And of course I sat down within the last 5 years because jokingly, I still say I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But, I think for a time I thought I maybe wanted to be a veterinarian because I really loved animals. I thought being a vet was very cool. I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor because like dealing with people just even then didn't sound very appealing to me.
Yeah.
So I really thought I'd be a veterinarian. But then when I was in high school, my dad was like, okay, well, you need to go shadow a practicing veterinarian to see what this is actually like. Because he probably knew deep down that like I didn't have it in me to like cut an animal open. And sure enough, the very first Saturday morning that I was shadowing at a vet office, they had to do a procedure just on the ankle of one of their stud horses that they had. And, it was a tiny bit of blood, and I just about passed out right there in the stall. And I was like, well, this is not going to be it, Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. As I went through those years, I didn't really know. I just knew that I needed to get good grades and needed to go to college because that was very much the direction for all of us.
Yep.
It just wasn't an option to do anything else. So that's sort of what I focused on and figured once I get to college, I'll figure it out. Maybe. I don't know.
You ever seen an animal get cut up, Vince?
Yeah.
Like legally?
Sheesh. I mean, we did that thing with PBS where we had to follow the hog roast. So we saw the hog
Oh, yeah,
literally
that's
get
right.
cold.
Oh, how interesting.
That's right.
And that was an interesting experience and took footage that I think should never see the light of day, but
You have it.
That's true.
we had.
You can
I
use
remember
it.
in college I took this. My degree was in food, hotel and restaurant management. So we had to watch a cow get slaughtered from
From start to
from
finish.
end to end. So we saw it come in, and it went behind a little hidden area, and they said, "We're going to hit the bolt now," which is mean they shot him in the brain.
Yep.
And then we heard some noises and stuff. Next thing we know, it's getting raised up to the roof, and they take a big saw and they go right down the middle. And so one of the guys, he's like, "Oh yeah, nothing makes me ill," and they'd warned us. And right away, that guy passed out. Somebody else threw up. I'm just like, oh, it's kind of gross.
Ugh.
And then something got thrown onto the table in front of us. And I'm like, all right, it's,
Slab of something.
yeah, what is this? And I looked at it. I'm like, it looks familiar, but
You're like dinner.
it's moving. It's literally moving. And he goes, can anybody identify that kind of meat? And we're all like laughing. He goes, that's the tongue.
Oh, sure.
And it still
Yep.
was moving. It's like, whoa.
Because of the nerves and
Kinda
stuff.
like Rice Krispies.
It's like a chicken. So like when I was a kid, my grandparents had chickens on their farm. And again, it's one of those memories that's like burned into my brain. But it was like chicken slaughter day, which I don't know if anybody's ever seen that.
I have not.
They, people claim that chickens run around after you cut their heads off. They 100% do. So you got these chickens running around with no head and, blood's gushing out of their neck. And then you dunk them in boiling water to get all the fat. And it's the most disgusting experience. And it's just like, why do I have to see this as like a 5-year-old? Like, what's happening right now?
So I grew up in Central Sioux Falls, and one day a chicken ended up in our backyard, and my mom decided, I'm going to show you how we do it in the old country.
Oh, God.
And she did exactly what you said. So
Wow.
split the chicken's head off, dump it in water, and I'm like 8, and I was like, this is a, and then
Mom's going to get arrested.
Yeah.
it's like, can we do this? Is this okay?
Is this okay? Is this legal? Like, I don't know.
Hide the little brother. Mom's on her rant today. She's got bloodlust going on. That's crazy. So when you did get to high school and start to go to college, did you have a better idea of what you wanted to do?
No. I mean, again, I think I had a delusion for a half second that, like everybody, we were all going to be doctors or something.
Sure.
I also thought that maybe being a dental hygienist was in my future. Why? I don't know. Because nothing about that is anything that I enjoy doing. And again, luckily you have to do shadowing to get into the program. So I went in shadow dentist, and literally the first 2 hours I'm there, some kid comes in and bites the hygienist's finger and won't let go.
Oh.
And she is as calm as a cucumber. And this kid had to have been biting hard.
Yeah.
And her whole finger's like between his molars. And she's like, okay, I need you to let go. And the worst part is the mom was standing right there, and the mom was like, okay, sweetie, I need you to let go of her finger. I need you to open. And I would have been like, I would have grabbed that kid's face and been like, if you don't open in the next half of a second,
I'm knocking you out.
there's going to be a problem more than there is at this moment. So again, like that was reinforcement that I was like, I'm not going to do this. There's no way.
I never would have thought about that incident. I thought it'd be blood or something.
Nope. She just bit her and didn't let go. And I was like, you do this all day. And she's like, yeah, pretty much. And she just loved it. And I was like, I'm not cut out for this. So I just decided by that point, I should just maybe do a general business degree, because I can maybe then parlay that into something. Luckily, by the time I got to the end of my junior year, USD added a marketing degree through the business school. So I was already like 3/4 of the way done, and only had to add a few more classes my senior year.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up getting a degree in marketing only because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And then I decided to get a master's because I still didn't know. And my husband had a year left on his master's program. So I just did that. Just kept going.
So did you ever get in any sort of trouble?
I knew he was going to ask that. I knew it.
My son likes to ask those kinds of questions. I will tell you the most trouble I ever got in. My husband is a year ahead of me in school, and we were dating towards the end of high school. So he went to college at USD first, and my parents and my mom especially, were very strict. And so like I had like a 10 p.m. curfew all through high school. Like even though I had perfect grades and worked and, was doing all of the like right things.
Yeah.
She just still was very adamant on being strict. So it was getting towards the end of my senior year, and I wanted to go down to Vermilion to see my boyfriend, who obviously now is my husband. And my mom just said no for no reason. Like there was no explanation. And I had just recently bought a car. And so I decided to go anyway.
Peace out.
So I went to Vermilion, just went for the day, and got back to our house, mid to late afternoon. And my dad was standing like outside of our garage waiting. And I knew it was coming.
Bum, bum, bum.
So I, park and get out. And my dad just walks up to me and he goes, "Give me your keys." And I, in my stupidity as a teenager, felt it was necessary to say, "Well, this is my car." And the look he gave me was enough for me to know that I should not have said that and should have just given him the keys. So I then had my car taken away for over a month and had to ride the bus to and from school every single day as a senior in high school. And that's the most trouble I ever got in.
Oof.
That she was caught for.
But that I got caught for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that I got caught for.
Did you get double parented by your mom then also?
I mean, she felt it was necessary to just reinforce how dumb that was, and that she was really disappointed. And I was like, this is not helping because I still don't understand why you guys said no in the first place. So I'm not happy about it anyway. And now I'm really mad that I got caught and my car got taken away. So
do you ever revisit that memory with them?
I've talked to my dad about it. He doesn't remember like being as upset as he actually was, of course.
Of course not.
2020.
Because I mean, my older brother especially pulled stunts that were far worse. And so like what I did by comparison was just so tame that it probably has just like pushed it out of his brain as like that actually wasn't that important at the time. I just got really mad about it.
Do you remember that look your dad gave you?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, how do dads do that? They can give you this look and it's just like, I'm going to die.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I've never thought that he would ever, like, put his hands on any of us. But just there was something about the way he looked at me. And I was like, oh, I really messed up. Like that. Like, I really messed up.
What's your mom's name?
Diane.
Diane. Sharpen the chainsaw.
Yeah. Laura's
gone a little too far this time. Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's that dad superpower.
Yeah, they do. They have that superpower. Yeah. I always found it funny. My mom was the one that would she had the really harsh rules. My dad, he's like, let them play. But if my mom put out the rules and we broke them, then she would bring dad along because she want to be the bad cop. So
sure.
she'd get mad and then, "Ron, you need to spank the boy."
Right.
And I'm like, "I know what you're doing, Mom. I see what's going down. You're just trying to bring dad down with you."
Right.
So I never held it against him that he spanked us. It was just Mom's fault.
She made him do it.
Yeah, she totally did. So you get out of college, you get your master's, and now what happens?
So it was the middle of the recession. So, really.
Which one?
The first one. Recession number one for you millennials keeping track. So my husband and I both had master's level educations. His was very specific in chemistry. Mine was just a general MBA. And we had to make a choice. Either we go back to Sioux Falls where we had most of our family still, or do we move somewhere? We had made a ton of friends in college that were from Omaha and we're going back there, or we're already back there. So we decided, you know what, let's go to Omaha. Maybe we'll have a better chance getting jobs. Again, the things you like justify to yourself at like 23, 24 years old. So we moved to Omaha without jobs, luckily find a great house to rent. And my husband finds a job pretty quickly because there was a lot of manufacturing. ConAgra was headquartered there at the time.
Yep.
So he gets a job pretty quickly working in a laboratory. Took me months to find a job, like 4 months, I think, by the time I finally got a job. And it was a horrible job. And it was a insurance underwriting. And I just was like, I will take anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, making far less than everyone guaranteed you would make, in business school and college.
Right.
So took that job and just immediately then started looking for a different one because I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
Isn't it infuriating that you go through Well, at that time, you go through your entire life in school, got the master's, I'm bulletproof,
Oh yeah.
and you throw the resume across going, they're going to give me top dollar. Like, no, you're overqualified or
Yes.
you're not good
Ooh,
enough.
the
or-
overqualified.
Or you don't have any relevant experience because,
Right.
you've been in college for 5 years. It's like, well, what did you want me to do? I couldn't get a full-time job doing something relevant while I don't know what I want to do.
Right.
And everybody was like, oh, you'll make at least $60,000 when you get out of college. I didn't make anything close to that out of college. I can guarantee you that. So it was
That's
pretty frustrating. And, student loan debt then on top of it was, then that was a whole nother level of reality.
Right. So was this in the, like around 2008?
Yeah.
Ish? Yeah.
Yeah. So we both graduated in 2010 with our masters. And then, obviously the Midwest was more insulated than other areas of the country. But, as people that had advanced degrees, we certainly felt the pinch that a lot of companies were going through at that time.
Yeah, yeah. And then you go back, have you seen that movie, The Big Short?
I have.
I mean, when you watch that, you know what I'm talking about? The real estate crash down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, I look back and I've gone through periods of my life where I was very present and other periods of life where I'm like, God, I kind of remember that, but I kind of don't. But you go back and you watch that movie and you're like, oh yeah. But yet in the moment, it didn't feel like it was actually real.
No, and I think depending on where you were at in your life at that time, kind of indicated how aware you were of what was going on, right? Like obviously we knew that a recession was happening. I think recession number 2 was far more present for me because I was at a different phase of my life. I was an adult, was farther in my career, had a child. Whereas at that time, everything was still so new. Everything was a first experience for us, right? Like we had recently been married. We were getting our first real jobs out of college. We had our first house rental, so we weren't really focused on the economy as a whole.
Yeah.
We just were aware of what was impacting us and we're kind of tunnel visioned, I think, in that.
I mean, that's the funny thing too about growing up and getting older. You're a kid, you graduate. I mean, Vince and I were talking about this a little not long ago about the realization of when you graduate and now is there or is there not maybe a relationship? What's my career look like? And it is like you're jumping off a diving board. But even after college and you get into the real world, you're never really prepared for what's going to hit you, I don't think. I think that's way, way understated. We probably downplay that. Oh, mom, dad, I got this, I got this all figured out. But then you really don't. Like, oh my gosh, you mean the things? You mean I have to watch the news? I have to
Like pay attention
these
to what's going
things.
on. I mean, and there's so much, there's always so much happening all the time. I think, there's a reason people just feel very overwhelmed by just society at large because there's just, especially now, there's a million things going on all the time. And if you really want to be informed about all of it, it can consume every minute of your life.
I mean, we spend most of our lives systematized where like everything is like you're in the system, you do this, you do A to get to B, etc. And then all of a sudden you finish school and it's like, okay, systems are gone, processes are gone.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Best wishes.
Yikes.
Warm regards.
So life takes you through a couple of twists and turns, not bad. And so eventually you find your way to
Flynn Wright.
Flynn Wright, who, by the way, you want to tell us the story behind this nice prop Laura brought for us?
It's from the Harry Potter set.
Which I've never seen a single Harry Potter movie or read a single Harry Potter book.
Oh, shame.
I know, but
So instead of getting a tattoo, she
yeah.
decided to make that.
Yeah.
So
So
let's pull this down so everybody can see.
a part of our logo is a lightning bolt under a cloud. And so we had these fun lamps to give out. And so as a thanks for having me today, I decided to bring you guys one.
very cool.
So I feel like it would, go really well on the set. So
I like it. So is there a? I like that. So tell us more about that logo. What's that mean?
It's a great question. I don't know that I have a good answer, but one of the things we say is strike like lightning and make some noise. And I really think it's sort of the philosophy of Flynn Wright, which is you need to have a great idea, but it needs to be informed and it needs to do something. You can't just make something look good just for the sake of it. There really needs to be function behind the form. And we've really prided ourselves on being able to do that. over the last 40 years. So
very
the
cool.
lightning bolt and the cloud, that's kind of an ode to that.
An ad agency that I worked with, it's not in this area. They would give away little pebbles. They're they weren't too small, but maybe this big around.
Sure.
And you're like, wow, like you guys spared no expense making those. And they always put them down like where all you could see was the rock. And then they would say, well, go ahead and flip it over. And then it would say something like, had their logo on it, and it said, we leave no stone unturned.
Sure.
And I like that, as, you need some creative juice once in a while, and that's what an agency typically brings. So creative that they gave us a rock.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
Could have cost that much to have that engraved.
So we should give out scissors. No, paper, because paper beats rock.
Yeah, paper beats rock. Yes, that's what you should do.
So how did you find your way to Flynn Wright?
They called me, actually. I, for 10 years of my career had done the same thing and worked in property management, and, decided after those 10 years I was kind of done. I was not enjoying it as much as I once had. Obviously, it's a very difficult job, and, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
And I also felt like I needed to challenge myself. I was pretty comfortable by the end of that tenure, and was just kind of starting to look back over my resume and was like, oh my gosh, I basically only have one thing on here. And is that all I have in me? Is that all that there is? And so took a career left turn and went to work for a billboard advertising company here in Sioux Falls. Shout out to Book Your Billboard. To Doug and Zach, they took a chance on me because I had no experience in that. I had never done outside sales in my entire life. But they took a chance on me to come in there and help them try to build on a great foundation that they had in their business. And so was, again, very happy doing that, and was doing really well at the company, and the company in general was doing really well, growing so fast. And Flynn Wright in that time decided it was time to put down actual roots in Sioux Falls, even though they'd been coming here for 10 plus years to visit clients they already had, and found me somehow on LinkedIn and reached out, and I said, no, I guess we'll take another leap. And here we go.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
That's got to feel good, like just having a reach out like that and saying, hey, we want you to plant the flag here.
There's nothing like it. I mean, I will never forget what that felt like, having to hunt for my very first job out of college.
Yeah.
So to have, kind of that come full circle, 15, 20 years later, and have someone reach out and look at me and go, there might be something there, just looking at my LinkedIn profile, which, is maybe a plug to keep your LinkedIn profiles updated. Like, it does work. It's helpful, I think people dog on LinkedIn, but situations like that, that's what people look at.
It's Facebook without the drama.
100%.
That's what Jamie Wood from the SBA tells us.
100%. And we need less drama in our lives. So
Don't we, though?
Use LinkedIn.
We'll be right back.
So what would you say as the professional marketer when you look at the world in general and how businesses market? Do you think things have gotten better or worse, and why?
I think there's been a tendency to try to make it big real quick. Everybody wants a silver bullet. Everybody wants the one-hit wonder. They want to go viral.
Right.
And that's just not sustainable. There's some that have done that, but they've fallen just as fast as they went up. So I think there's been a little bit of a loss of the art, kind of like I alluded to earlier, of understanding what you're trying to achieve and having a clear vision of that. I think everybody kind of wants to skip over that hard work and just get to the end of, we made this cool thing, and why isn't it taking off?
Right.
And they don't even understand what it is they're trying to achieve. So I think creatively, things, obviously have moved forward, but I just don't know if it's always, if there's anything backing it other than we think this is the next big thing, but it doesn't really mean anything for our brand.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that, just the word viral or influencer or whatever, it's taking the shortcut to get to somewhere, but having a relationship with your customer should take a little bit of time to get them to know, like, and trust you. And if you do try to take that shortcut, then they're probably going to take the shortcut and maybe get to know somebody else more than they want to know you because you didn't put much effort into getting to know them.
Exactly. I think relationships always win, in good and in bad.
Right.
And if you're not, if you're not going to be intentional to understand your customer and their brand and understand or even help them to understand what drives them and again, kind of what is that singular focus to be able to help them market whatever their business is, I think you're doing them a disservice, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've really enjoyed about just being in the business development role in general is being able to have a better understanding of the depth that many brands have and build that long-standing relationship that isn't just based on, well, we're only going to be friends if you're our client or if we get the business or whatever it is, because you never know who knows who and you never know how relationships can evolve where it might not make sense today for something to happen, but a lot can change in 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And so keeping that front of mind, I think, is just so important.
So put on your future hat. Where do you see marketing in the next 5 to 10 years? How bad do you think it's going to get?
Oh, gosh. I mean, AI obviously is a huge topic and something we talk about a lot within our agency because there are ways that AI can help. It can help automate things, processes. It can help, cut down on man hours for, kind of process-driven things. But I think you're going to start to see a lot of repetition, a lot of the same kind of thing over and over because everybody wants to use AI. Again, go back to the shortcut. Everybody wants to find a way to get to the end result faster, cheaper, with fewer people, whatever it might be. And that's the issue I think you run into with AI is it repeats a lot.
Right.
It might be a slight iteration difference, but if you really are wanting to create something impactful, it can't be the same old thing that everybody's doing. And I think that's unfortunately going to be a lot of our future, and then maybe we'll get out of that eventually. I don't know.
Yeah. The did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say something funny. There's a
Well, go for it.
there's a comedian who has a bit about Amazon Prime is 2-day shipping and Amazon Prime's not good enough because in the future it'll be Amazon Now, where a Coke, I didn't even know I wanted a Coke, but it's here.
Oh my gosh.
We'll charge you for it.
Yeah. It's so true though. I mean, it is, it's, I'm that way sometimes where it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to take Prime 4 days to get here. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
And it's like, let's go back a few years, shall we? When it would take weeks
Yeah.
to get something and you never knew when it was going to show up
Yeah.
because there's no,
6 to 8
tracking
weeks.
was nothing.
That's true.
So Amazon Prime's a lie now, though. I mean, no more 2-day shipping. When was the last time you got something in 2 days for Amazon Prime?
Never.
Yeah,
The
never
good old
happens.
days of Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Those were the
But
good old
that's
days.
like that whole thing, this instant gratification. There's a lot of challenges, I think, in marketing too. I think the statement goes, somebody else's middle is not your beginning, I think is how it goes. And I think that sometimes in business, we expect these instantaneous results and leads and clients coming out of the woodwork. Well, we haven't done the hard work yet to get there. So how can you expect people to be instantly attracted to what it is that you do or that they even care? I think there's a lot of marketing out there where businesses feel like, well, let's just put our name out there and everybody should just really like us. Well, what are you doing for them?
Exactly.
You got to do something for them to make them enjoy working with you. Are you familiar with Alex Hormozy?
I don't think so.
So he's this very buff.
He wears a nose.
Yeah, wears a
pad.
nose pad. He's popular on YouTube.
Okay.
He, I think his
Total
claim to
gym bro.
fame, he did. Yeah, it is. He used to really be really great at recruiting members to gyms. So he'd go around
Okay.
the country and do this, and then he started building. And the thing that's interesting that I find about Alex, and I think there's a few others out there, is that there are probably influencers, others that they see somebody like an Alex Hormozy, who in his space is pretty popular, and they think it's super easy to get there. But from what I understand about him, he has taken a long time and continued to put out a ton of content until somebody said, hey, this guy isn't full of it, and maybe we should pay attention.
Right.
And so we have a little saying. I'm almost close to memorizing this, but it's on our refrigerator, and it says something about the hero commits to the activities, but the fool commits to the journey.
Oh, for sure.
and they're the destination or something like that. But basically, in order to get to where you want to go, you've got to enjoy and you've got to commit to those activities. You've got to, continue to foster the relationship. You can't just get married right off the bat
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
unless you live in a different country.
Right.
Oh, that's that. Sometimes that's just called. We don't talk about that. International Criminal Court.
God, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
I want to talk about it. Come on, let's hear it. So, what do you think is for people that are watching? What do you think are some good marketing tips or tricks that people should pay attention to or do more often?
I think really, again, understanding your brand and sticking to that. Don't try to be everything to everybody.
Yep.
I think that's a really big pitfall that a lot of people fall into is they want to be the Coca-Cola, right? And it's like, you listen, you're not going to be that. Like, you should have started 60 years ago, I mean, and that's, that's a lot of it too, is a lot of the brands that have the staying power, that have, they've got that reputation. It's time.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get that with a company that started 2 years ago or
Right.
last year. So I think, again, fully understanding your brand and sticking to it. And then understanding the tactics behind the strategy and really digging into research. I mean, nobody likes to talk about research. It's boring. It's not sexy. But when you understand why you're doing and what it's going to do for you, you will be so much better off in the long run, because you're not just throwing things at the wall then hoping something works
Sure.
when you just don't even have any understanding. So, and then work within your budget. Like, don't try to paint the sun, the moon, and the stars in one fell swoop when you can't afford it. There are so many good options for any kind of marketing, very affordable, and you can ease into it. Like, you don't have to go work with a massive agency to have great results.
Sure.
And that's also something I think people assume, like, oh, if I'm going to go work, I got to work with an agency or I'm not going to be successful. And that's not true. That's just not true at all.
Yeah, I think if you do start off with those tactics of building the relationship, and then so people say, man, that Laura, she's so nice, and every time we see her at mixers or stuff like that, she's just a really great person to work with. You build up that relationship, and then when it does come time to maybe spend a little bit more money, now you're just echoing to people your greatness. But if you go too quickly, you're like, well, who's Jeff? I got this, whatever it is, but I don't know who that guy is. So there's no reflection on what's that brand represent. But for having somebody like you, who we have seen at events several times, even before you joined Flynn Wright, you're a nice person. You're great to talk to.
Well,
Got great
thanks.
nails.
Oh, listen.
Yeah, no, she's got the best lashes. Where do those come from? I need to
They
know
come
that.
from Target. So
Tarche.
so you
You're
too
supposed
can
to
have
say,
your own.
Oh, they came from my mom.
Yeah,
or
no.
something like that.
My poor little natural lashes are just tiny, so it would be a shame to bring those out in public.
Yeah, the nails and lashes. So how
Yeah.
long are the nails these days?
So they're pretty much the same length as always, but this was a COVID thing because we were all at home and everything was so uncertain and nobody knew what was going to happen. And I'm not a color my hair kind of person yet, thank God. But so I'm not going to go drastic. I'm not going to cut my hair off, But I was like, I'm going to make a change, and so I decided to start
nails.
getting long nails. So
Is that part of the Laura brand?
it is part of the Laura brand now.
What else is part of the Laura brand?
Black.
yes.
Black and
Black,
neck
like
and,
I
and nails.
pretty much wear. So neutrals has been my kind of color palette for a long time. I'll add in some red, like for a USD game or something. But
Yeah.
people that know me know that I pretty much wear black, white, gray, tan, a little brown.
That's my wife's
So
color
she's a
palette,
Sith
too.
Lord.
She's a Sith Lord.
I mean,
Agree with
I
that.
jokingly say it matches my soul, but that's kind of a joke.
He said you're a Sith Lord.
Yeah, that too, for sure.
Long, flowy black.
Long,
could
flowing
be.
black, a hood, the whole thing.
So we're at that point where we kind of wrap things up, but we always like to kind of go back. Is there any specific nostalgic memory that we haven't had the chance to talk about that you want to leave us with?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
This is a moment where
Bar
you get to
reminder,
teach your
statute of
child.
limitations is long gone now, so
Right.
you can
That's
say
true.
anything.
Oh man.
That's true. Time to
I
fess
mean,
up.
I did have a Cabbage Patch doll just like this one, and her name was Annie. That was like the only doll I ever had because I just was kind of a tomboy, of course, growing up with three brothers. But seeing that was kind of fun to walk in and see that because
What
she
happened to
literally.
Annie?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Annie actually because I have a lot of I have my baby blankie. and a couple other things from when I was like a baby, but I don't know where Annie went.
Just
maybe
one day.
Maybe I gave her to my sister, and maybe my sister got rid of her,
Oh,
looking at
dang.
Invasion of the Baby Snatchers.
calling her out. Okay.
Is there a specific core memory, saying, quote, story that you'd like to share with our audience that you still carry today and it's helping you, whether it's raising your family or working your business, whatever it is, you still carry on?
So when I was growing up, obviously I never knew what I wanted to be, but my dad always would say, and it turns out Confucius originally said it, but he would always talk about doing what you love and you never will work a day in your life. And there were so many things my dad said, and that was one of them. The other was, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I never believed either of those things because, of course, I was a teenager who knew everything. And my dad was just a guy. Like, what did he know? But I still carry both of those things with me today. And especially as I got out of college, both of those things became very apparent that it's real. And especially it's not what you know, it's who you know. Philosophy, I think, is so true. I mean, Sioux Falls and South Dakota, the Midwest in general, is so connected that a lot of times it's like we said before, the relationship is what will carry you forward. And then, of course, surrounding yourself with those exceptional people will then, reinforce kind of that philosophy. So those two things I think have always kind of stayed top of mind, which I think is why I've pushed myself to change careers a couple of times because I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I think life is meant to be enjoyed. And you spend so much of your life at work, so you might as well have fun while you're doing it. And what better fun place to be than an advertising agency? So
Dad has great quotes. The one that I'll never forget, that you kids should never forget, is, "Give me your keys, and you better do it."
Yes, and don't talk back.
Don't talk back.
Well, friends, to find out more about Laura and Flynn Wright, we'll have all the information on our show notes. If you're a listener, we highly recommend you view us on YouTube. Highly. And until then, please continue to stay engaged, and we will see you next time on Nostalgia Street. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on iTunes, please take a moment and leave us a rating and review.
Head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. You'll get access to engaging visuals that complement our podcast content.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to having you with us on our next episode. So until next time, listeners, stay curious, stay engaged,
And never stop walking down Nostalgia Street.